Thank you, everyone. Over to you, Libby, for...
Yes, so thank you, everyone. We're so excited to be here and to have you all with us. We'll start with quick introductions by each of the panel members. And so Dr. Teresa, if you would like to go ahead and just give us a brief introduction about yourself and your background, and then we'll go to our other panelists.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Can hear very well.
It's wonderful to join you to celebrate World Mental Health Day and celebrate our partnerships with the University of Rwanda and so many wonderful colleagues within Rwanda, also with the ministries. And just to give you some background on myself, my name is Dr. Teresa Betancourt. I'm a professor here at Boston College School of Social Work. I've been working in your beautiful country since 2006 and have a long collaboration with Dr. Vincent Sezibera. I'm director of the research program on children and adversity here at Boston College. We work in Rwanda, Sierra Leone, and also with migrant and refugee populations resettling in the United States.
Thank you so much, Dr. Teresa. Dr. Vincent?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good afternoon to colleagues in Rwanda and in the US. I know it's morning. Good morning. I'm Vincent Sezibera. I'm a teaching staff here at the University of Rwanda, Department of Clinical Psychology, and I'm also the director of the Center for Mental Health at the College of Medicine and Health Sciences, University of Rwanda, with more interest in doing research and training, community outreach activities. From that background, also work for now more than 10 years with a colleague, Professor Teresa Betancourt, on the specific project related to child development, child mental health, family functioning, and the relation between the three components. So it's my great pleasure being part of this conversation today. And I do welcome other colleagues from other institutions as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vincent. DG Fred Mufruche.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be part of this session. I'm called Mufruche Fred, Director General for National Rehabilitation Service. I've been in this institution since April last year. So I'm excited to be with you. And I'm looking forward to get insights from the academia people. Thank you.
Thank you. We're looking so much to get insights from you, and I hope to hear more from the National Rehabilitation Services. Maxime, if you can hear me from UNICEF. There you are.
Yes, hi. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for this opportunity to join all of you. My name is Maxime. I'm a social and behavior change and community engagement specialist for UNICEF Rwanda. And early childhood development and mental health and psychosocial support is a big part of our portfolio. So it's a real pleasure to be with you in this discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Now we'll go ahead and we'll start with Dr. Teresa and Dr. Vincent just giving a brief history on the partnership between Boston College and Sajira Myango in particular, and then we can go ahead and start with our questions. So Dr. Teresa, over to you.
Sure. So as I mentioned, Dr. Sezibera and I have been working together for many years with our research program on children in adversity. And just to give you some background on that program, in this work, we've been early on engaged in observational research, understanding what are the factors that lead to more resilient life outcomes or more risky life outcomes in children and families that face different forms of adversity. Early in Rwanda, we worked on the HIV and AIDS epidemic within different parts of the country and developed a family strengthening intervention that really focused on improving the parent-child relationship and enhancing communication and responsive nurturing relationships between parent and children. Our early intervention was for young people ages 7 to 17 in their households living with HIV, hopefully now beginning in the advent of antiretroviral treatment to live successfully and realize that HIV and AIDS were not a death sentence. After success and publishing on that work, Dr. Vincent and I were then approached by government partners in the World Bank to consider making a version of the intervention that was not specific to HIV, but could be used more broadly and much earlier to think about family-based prevention in the context of extreme poverty. And so that was the genesis of Sugero Moyango. Sugero Moyango is a family home visiting intervention. A feature of this is that it's done by non-specialists, by lay workers, community health workers, and now in a very large initiative called the Play Collaborative, we are testing this as scaled up using the Inshuti Zumuryango child protection workforce in Rwanda. Just to tell you a little bit more about the intervention, it is father engaged. So we work with male and female caregivers involved in the lives of young children. We're working primarily with Ubadehe 1 families who are ranked by the government as eligible for VUP services for being in the most extreme level of poverty. And through the home visiting coaches from the community are really encouraging parents to engage in nurturing care. And you'll probably learn about the nurturing care of UNICEF and WHO to promote those stimulating interactions, play at every session. The parents are encouraged to engage in playful interactions with their children. We have 15 minutes of play at every home visit. We try to show up when the males are there. We think about scheduling in a flexible way so that we show up when fathers can also be engaged after the workday, after meals, on weekends. And we also are sharing some of the basic content from the UNICEF WHO Care for Child Development curriculum related to nutrition, dietary diversity, hygiene promotion, and then in working with caregivers, many who have experienced trauma, we work a great deal on problem solving, conflict resolution, and reducing violence. And we've now published 2 very large cluster randomized studies on Sugero Moyango involving over 1,000 families. And we have found that pre to post intervention, not only do we see improvements in the child's dietary diversity and how much the parents seek out help for health problems like fever and diarrhea, we also see that parents are engaging in more playful interactions. The home becomes a safer, more stimulating environment for children. And we saw a significant reduction in use of harsh punishment, as well as intimate partner violence facing women in the households. Pre to post intervention, we also saw an improvement in anxiety and depression, both in mothers and in fathers who got the home visiting intervention, which is very exciting. We just finished a study that looked 1 year out. Our colleague, Dr. Sarah Jensen, is the lead author on that publication with myself and Dr. Vincent. We found that those effects on violence held 1 year later. So this is a very exciting intervention because it's potentially quite scalable. So we've now in the Play Collaborative scaled it within 3 districts and have a strategy we're testing called the collaborative team approach, where we have a seed team of experts in Rwanda who are cell mentors and experts in the intervention. They train the new Inshuti Zumuryango to do the intervention, and then they work with them to improve their practice, review the quality of the delivery, and enhance quality as we go. We have a digital dashboard that Dr. Vincent and his colleagues at the University of Rwanda have helped us to develop to keep track of quality indicators and allow the partners in government to see our impact from the national level to the district, to the cell, to the local level, so they can see how many families we're enrolling. Are we meeting quality indicators? Are we engaging fathers? So there's a system here, and we really hope in the years ahead, working with all of you, we can expand the reach of these evidence-based interventions to reach many more vulnerable families. So Dr. Vincent, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Teresa. And as I said, it has been such a pleasure working with you and colleagues on this very important program. I think the background is well described by Teresa. What I want to emphasize on is much about the lessons learned from the different research project we have been developing and also assessing the the impact. Second is about the feasibility from a specific context of us. One, from these research efforts, there is a list of lessons learned. One is about improving the relation between parents and children, and how it affects and impacts on the child development, child mental health, and very importantly, how the participants could learn from their traditions, either using proverbs in naming the way they feel, and even bringing in what I would call local ingredients. For example, the conflict management within a family. We could see participants themselves coming with proverbs like abishize hamwe nta kibananira, which can be translated like, when the family members are united, they are able to alleviate or to solve any problem, depending on how the family is stronger, how the family members communicate, they are able to solve any problem or any challenge they may face. The other thing, as lessons learned, is when there are conflicts in the family, the conflicts will affect the way parents relate to their own children, and children will tend to develop or to exhibit problematic behaviors. But when the communication is improved among the parents themselves and parents and kids, it has an impact on the child or children behavior. Very important, knowing what we can learn from different reports here in Rwanda and globally in the world, that dysfunctioning behaviors, either in children, adolescents, and youth, have to do with what is happening in the family. And by improving that communication in the family, by supporting family members in the best way to handle challenges or problems in their family, they learn and they change in the way they approach the challenges and difficulties. Another very important last lesson I have learned is that this approach can be, is doable by those who are highly educated with degrees in psychology, in social work, but it is also something that can be utilized by lay workers, to include community workers, to include citizen muryango. They are able to learn and use the approach and be successful in educating community members, either in how to minimize in harsh punishment, in how to interact and talk to their children, how to interact in a family, in decision making, in handling or managing any conflicts that may happen. Another thing I want to emphasize on is, I will say, sharing information. The digital dashboard is clearly proving that when the information are shared from the local level up to the central level, there are lessons we can learn from the that data and take decision and anticipate before the situation gets worse. But it is also important to note how from that information shared from the digital dashboard, we can also understand how important is the involvement of local stakeholders and key players at the community and village level. I want to stop by saying again, it is happy to have this conversation today. I mean, celebrating the World Mental Health Day, where the theme is about mental health and well-being, making it a priority. We can also consider that those who are, in most cases, left behind include young children and adolescents. We have globally number of programs, but curiously, they are most of them adult-centered, with few which are child and adolescent-centered. So no one should be left behind, including young children and adolescents, if you want to promote mental health and well-being from the global perspective, and especially this year theme. So this forum of today, I can see we are all of us, child, adolescents, youth centered in what we do, and I'm very happy and honored to have DG Rwanda Rehabilitation Service. Thank you, DG Fred, being with us. Maxime, I always appreciate the collaboration being established between us and UNICEF. And again, Dr. Teresa Betancourt and the team from Boston College. We are doing a great job investing in children, families. If you want to have a future productive population, we should start from the children and adolescents. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Vincent. I think you highlighted key issues and you brought about the theme of this year, making mental health and well-being a global priority, and how in the work you're doing with you and Dr. Teresa in terms of child development and support. And you talked about issues like digital technology being used in the community as a platform that can be able to, digital tools as a platform that can be used to deliver this global or mental health for all. I would like to link to Fred. If you, as a government agency, a government institution, but also as the National Rehabilitation Services, could you link us of what your role is and how you're working towards mental health, especially that you are in charge of respond to rehabilitation, to children living on streets and all that kind of really complex and sensitive work. So yeah, if you could tell us how NRS comes in and responds to mental health support. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Thank you, Dr. Vincent. Dear distinguished speakers, participants, it is my honor and privilege to participate in this important session on mental health while celebrating World Mental Health Day. I think I can start by appreciating Boston College School of Social Work, the University of Rwanda, and Sugira Muryango for organizing this interactive session, bringing together, I've seen researchers, we have researchers, we have practitioners, some are policymakers to discuss this important topic on mental health. Mental health being a global concern, as you know, and Rwanda being a part of the globe, being part of the world, we are also, we experience mental health problems among our Rwandan population. We see children and youth being victims and need special attention. Victims of mental health, especially street children, and youth, the ones we deal with between 18 and 30 years. So in addressing this global issue, Rwanda established the National Rehabilitation Service. It's a very big task that we appreciate having everyone on this platform and learning from you, learning from researchers. We hope that we can do a lot. But before that, when National Rehabilitation Service was established, we wanted to draw our attention, our focus on strategic guidance. What guides us on what we have to do? I want to refer to His Excellency Paul Kagame, the President of the Republic of Rwanda. And I want to quote him. In 2016, during community work in one of the districts, he said that no child deserves to live on the streets. A child has rights to have a family, to go to school, and get every kind of treatment and care. The end of quote. And in 2019, still when he was interacting with youth in Itorero, that's our national value program, I also want to quote him. He said, "You find students who are educated, but who are using drugs. Drugs are like termites that destroy you from the inside. They turn everything you have learned and built to dust." So now, that is where, as NRS, National Rehabilitation Service, looking at that strategic guidance from our president and looking at the mandate we were given, focusing on the 3 areas, that's where now we start to jungle through these mental health, drug addiction issues. But still in Rwanda, we have come to realize that mental health issues are largely associated with the genocide against Tutsi in 1994 and its consequences, like breakdown of the social fabric and disintegration of the family institution. That you can see if there's family disintegration, and as Dr. Vincent said, without a family, without everyone in the family being part of what is happening in the family and helping someone, then things will go wrong. So particularly children and youth, we see psychologically and mentally affected. Some were left with no one responsible. They became heads of households. Families were dismantled, and others were dislocated and scattered. So you can imagine in that kind of situation in Rwanda, after the genocide, you have families scattered, you have survivors, you have someone was left with no one to care about. Others were just kids, they have no one to care about, no one to look after. They become head of the households. And by scanning and looking, reflecting on that situation, you realize that mental health issues in Rwanda are likely to be more in terms of cases compared to other countries. So currently, National Rehabilitation Service, we have discovered that streetism and drug addiction are mainly influenced by broken families. That's the major cause, and I want to link it with what Dr. Vincent said. So what do we do as National Rehabilitation Service? We deal with those people, we have them. So what do we do? First of all, we have 3 rehabilitation centers. One helps children from 8 years to 13 and ladies. Then other two help men with 18 years to 30. So currently we have a number of them in our rehab centers. But after admitting these delinquents in our rehab centers and introducing them to rehabilitation programs, we have come to realize that they disclose what they have been doing and their life on the street, like sniffing glue, like using alcohol, cannabis, heroin, and other substances. So, and some children on the street already, because of using drugs, these drugs have already affected them. Some have been domestically been affected, like domestic violence. Some have other deviant behaviors, like stealing. Some have dropped school. There are also sexual violence cases, and also teenage pregnancies among our people. So once we get them in the rehab center, we try to provide our support, focusing mainly on 3 areas. One is providing psychosocial support, and the younger ones, those between 8 to 13 years, between 8 and 13 years, we reintegrate them, we take them back to school. We have a school which we share with the community, which brings children from the community. Then we reintegrate them, we support them in the school, we give them everything, we give them food, we give them shelter. We support them for a period of 1 year as we monitor them, reassess them, and then we decide after that particular year to let them go back to their families. But if we find some have no families or have family issues, that letting them go will still take them back to those issues, we decide to keep them in our centers, but still it's a big challenge. Then secondly, we provide national values education, especially the youth between 18 and 30 years. We give values, we try to nurture them and give them national values. How do you live with one another without being hostile? How do you show love? How about work, working together? And then the third one, we give basic vocational training, skills. We have some trades in our centers. We have tailoring, we have carpentry, we have masonry, we have domestic electricity, and many others. So those are the skills we provide. And then after that process, then we take them back. I think I can end there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fred, and thank you to everyone for your great responses. So lovely to get to learn more about the current systems that exist and the different services for mental health across the Rwandan sphere. We'll get into questions now, 3 questions, and then we'll integrate questions from the chat as well. Since we do have quite a few questions to get through, we'll ask speakers to keep their responses roughly 3 to 5 minutes, just so we can get through as many as possible in the remaining amount of time that we have. The first question will go to Maxime, and it is about how does the social and behavior change approach respond to mental health and child development challenges in Rwanda? And then any specific or practical examples that you may have from your work with UNICEF.
Thank you so much. I'll try to be as brief as possible. But this is a very complex and big question. Social and behavioral change is a holistic and very multidisciplinary approach to different issues, including, of course, to mental health and child development issues. Let me quickly focus on one example from last year. Basically, in UNICEF Rwanda, we worked through applying communication 360 approach, where communication, which is external communication, advocacy, partnership team, works together with the social and behavior change team, which I am the part of, to support our program colleagues who do work in many different sectors. If you follow the life cycle approach or holistic approach to a child, I could just mention a few: health and nutrition section, child protection section, early childhood development, education, and others, social policy and others, basically, in achieving the organizational goals. Just as a quick example from last year, for mental health. Because of the COVID-19, we got to get some additional resources to focus on that particular issue, given how the COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated the situation with mental health and psychosocial support, particularly, but also in child development issues in general. We partnered with different partners, including Ministry of Health, University of Rwanda, NCDA, National Child Development Agency, and many others in doing the comprehensive social behavior change campaign. I'm sure many people on this call today would know about it. We called it as a green ribbon campaign. And the theme of it was there is a hope after a diagnosis of a mental illness. Let's seek care. Just to explain the kind of a scope that such interventions, which are multi-sectoral and where many partners are putting their hands together. Just to mention a few results, we reached over 6 million people, of course, particularly using different mass media and social media channels. And we really were able to increase awareness of mental health among parents, families, and most importantly, and it was mentioned and highlighted several times here, children, adolescents, and young people, with focus on how to break the cycles of abuse, violence, substance abuse, and adopt healthy and positive practices. We were also able to engage with 10,000 young people and adults into the conversation through, again, different platforms. And of course, with the service providers who are also on the front line of working with children, whether they are children in early childhood development settings or whether there's a children in schools, and to also deliver a content to them on how to take care of their well-being in order for them to be able to take care of the well-being of those who they have the responsibility over. So this is just one example. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maxime, for that really rich response and history of work. It's incredible. I think we'll direct our next question to Dr. Betancourt. How can we create environments that prioritize child development and child protection at all levels of our community?
So this is a really important issue, and I think the theme here is integration. That, as Dr. Vincent said, for a long time in addressing mental health, there's been a focus on psychiatric hospitals or facilities rather than moving mental health and mental health promotion and prevention services into the community. And the opportunity is there because there are pretty scaled up systems in other sectors, including schools, nutrition programs where families with vulnerable children come, primary care settings where children are getting checkups and are interacting with health professionals. And then, as we're doing in Sugiru-Muryango, the social protection system. So by integrating mental health services more into new delivery platforms and making them available out in the community, this is a way that we can increase access for those who need it most. You heard about the juvenile programs and the rehabilitation centers. Those are also opportunities to engage families, especially as those programs look to return young people back to their families. We also have to think of these ways to do family-based outreach and meet people where they are rather than expecting them to come to facilities. And that's a very important way to increase access of evidence-based services and promote mental health of children and adolescents who might not otherwise receive service.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Teresa. I think I'm also looking at some ways of collaboration with the NRS and the ongoing program of Sujiramu Young as well. The next question is for you, Dr. Vincent, and then the question is linking. Also, I think Maxime, you could respond to this as well. And I saw Dr. Darius, who is here as well. I don't know, Enel. But how can we create an environment that prioritizes child and mental health protection in our schools in terms of building an approach in which we build like at schools that there is mental health support as we talk about making mental health and well-being a priority for all. I don't know if you could speak about that.
Can I leave it to Dr. Darius and Maxime?
Okay, over to you, Maxime.
Thank you very much. I'm no expert in education, but what I can really say is that, and this goes to what Dr. Teresa was just saying, is all about integration. You cannot look at the education system as a separate system of providing mental health and psychosocial support. I will shape my answer in the social and behavioral change context when you look at issues through the socio-ecological model. When everything starts at the individual, so this is something that we want to provide the service to a child, and we look at the child without particular system, because the child belongs to different system. For example, if we talk about children, particularly 0 to 18 years old, they belong to so many different systems during this cycle. Whether it is health, whether it is education, early childhood education, nutrition services, basically everything that Dr. Teresa was mentioning in her previous response. And this is important on how education system can play a role in also safeguarding children's mental health and psychosocial support. There are so many different models and log frames, and strategies for doing that. But the big thing is to start by training the teachers themselves, whether it is in the ECD or primary school settings, first of all, of taking care of themselves, and then safeguarding the mental health of their students. And secondly is linking this health part of the service with what education system can provide. This is how I see it, and how actually I see it based on different models that work in different countries. But once again, I want to reiterate, we should never look at the certain system as the only way of providing this type of support. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Darius, in a second, you have any addition or?
Thank you so much, Joseph, and thank you for the panelists for the very interesting discussion. I could just add a comment reminding that, for instance, in Rwanda, we know that under 18, 10.2% of children and adolescents have mental health issues, and few of them will take the initiative to go to healthcare services. We have very mental health services, but very few, even if they want, they can't afford it, or the service would not be immediately acceptable. And that's why the RBC, UNICEF, and other partners are trying to implement what they call the school-based mental health program. Briefly, they try to train 2 teachers to become, they call them adolescent mental health champions, or the similar model to community health workers, teachers who are there to listen to children having challenges. And the program have been implemented over the last year, and there are 2,052 children and adolescents that have been referred to mental health care providers. Instead of waiting them to come to health care services, it is the system that try to adapt and join them where they are, training these school counselors, as Maxim said. But it's a pilot program and needs are we are far from meeting all needs for children and adolescent schools. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Darius. We have so many questions coming in, and I would like to take a few questions. Fratelline, if you can hear me, Kaitaren, if you can hear me, and feel free if you want, you can ask your question in Kinyarwanda. You don't just get restricted on English. But if you can hear me, Fratelline, you can ask your question.
Yeah, my name is Flaten Kaitere. My question is addressed to Dr. Vincent Sezvera and Fred Mufulke. So my question is about the situation of family today. I'm asking if you look at the situation of the family today, how do you connect these two things, true love and the problem that's threatened the children's health, especially their mental health? I don't know if my question is well asked, but that is it. Thank you.
Do you get it, Dr. Vincent and Fred? Okay. We can start with Fred. If you can respond to that quickly, and then, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Kaitare wants to know the situation of the family today and how we link the family with the mental health issues that we have, if I got it right. So, as I said, all these cases we have in our rehabilitation centers, you find close to 80% of the cases we have in rehabilitation centers are connected with the dysfunctional families. So you will see that the case we have when we talk to our trainees, you'll find that over 90% have parents. Over 90% have parents, either one or two. But close to 80% of them, their parents are not living together. So what does that really mean? It means that before parents not living together, there are a number of issues that they have for them, either separate or deciding not to live together at all. So there are a number of issues that led to that one, and the child was there in that time. Either they were conflicting, either they were taking drugs or alcohol, either they had a number of family issues. And then definitely the child will be affected. So to me, I link the mental health issues referring to our cases in the rehabilitation centers with family dysfunctionality. And that is where to put our effort when it comes to prevention. Yes, we have to intervene, support those ones that are already affected, but more effort should be put on ensuring functional families. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vincent. Anything to add on that? Wow.
Yeah, I will add just one element. I totally agree with DG Fred. Another thing I think we can consider is the parenting style and the beliefs behind. I think there is that traditional model where we believe that if you want your kid to be one productive in his or her life, you should use strong, harsh discipline. Otherwise, the child will not become a real man or woman in his or her life. But we forget that this harsh punishment, that harsh discipline will affect negatively the child. This is why I think child rearing is not a natural behavior. And if it is always important that parents are educated on how to interact with their children. Otherwise, it can lead to negative outcome or negative impact. That was what I want to add in addition to other aspects that will be considered. Thank you, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. We have a question from Adelaide. Adelaide, if you can hear me, could you ask your question? I think it's yeah. Okay. I think Adelaide, if you can't hear me, I could read it for you. So Adelaide,
can you read it for me? That's good. Thank you.
Okay, I'll read it for you. Yeah, so Adelaide is asking about cyberbullying, and is like now youth are facing a problem of cyberbullying, and we are talking about raising awareness on mental health issues through social media. How can we reconcile both in preventing them and preventing them to exposure to social media that is sometimes wounding or making them affected, but also be able to effectively use their awareness on your social media. I don't know, I know Dr. Teresa, you're also on social media, so if you could go for that and be able to, yeah, it's around cyberbullying, and then we'll also go to others, anyone who wants to comment on that.
Sure, happy to start out. It's an important issue globally for children. And for those of you interested in child mental health and more information on child mental health around the world, please know that this year UNICEF's State of the World's Children Report is a report on child mental health called On My Mind. It's free. You just Google that, UNICEF State of the World's Children Report from 2021. And it's all about mental health. And there's a good section on cyberbullying there. And an issue for reducing the exposure of children to such toxic content online is, again, their families and the people monitoring their use of social media, their access. Sometimes parents don't understand the risks that are inherent in the kind of content young people can see and be exposed to online, and they may not be limiting or even monitoring how they're using social media, how they're accessing. So again, this parent-child relationship is a fundamental part of protecting children from social media and cyberbullying. And then the other part is something that Dr. Vincent talked about that we do in our family-based preventative interventions, which is that relationship and communication between caregivers and their children. And when we say parents, we don't mean always just a mother, father. This can be important people in the lives of children, grandmother, auntie, uncle, peers, to open up communication and talk to kids about what they're seeing on social media so that they can come up with strategies to be careful in how they interact, not be sharing information or posting information online that can cause further problems, and become good consumers. So all of this goes back to parent-child relationships. And again, as Maxime said, that social ecology around the child that helps them stay safe and navigate life safely.
Thank you, Dr. Teresa. Dr. Vincent?
Yeah, I think it should be an aspect to explore and be mindful. Just for information, we are also developing a project, seeing how we can use technology as a medium to contribute to the education of youth, whether having access to information or even connecting with specialists and ask questions and get your answers, and also, as I said, the education. So we are lucky the National Council for Science and Technology is going to fund that kind of pilot study using technology and access the youth and give them a platform from which they can express themselves. So I do agree with colleagues under the lead. We should not forget the technology and other digital things, how they may affect either positively or negatively youth behaviors, to include bullying and level of depression, anxiety, and suicidality. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. We have, I think it's going to be our last set of questions, which is from Emmanuel towards the dash, Fred. So Emmanuel in his academy, which is also similar to what Alphonse asked. So Emmanuel, can you ask your question quickly? Otherwise, I will read it for you. Okay, go on. Go for it. Yeah.
Thank you. My question is addressed to NRS Dash, and I am really like to know what they plan to do for some cases of youth who come back in the community but fail to be reintegrated and return back in the rehabilitation centers. Thank you.
Joseph, can I speak?
Yes, Chris, go for it. Yeah, sure.
Thank you. The question is about reintegration.
Yeah, reintegration, but
support
I
you.
think specifically what Emmanuel and Alphonse they're asking is that there is a reintegration, and then people, once they reach in the community, they fail to get, there is a relapse, or they are taken back into the rehabilitation. So they return to the rehabilitation centers as well. So what are you thinking about that issue of, yeah.
Yes, reintegration is one of the challenges that we have today, which we have to focus on. And it is a task that has to be done by different actors, not single institution. But still, reintegration or failure to reintegrate, to give them what to do, does not automatically mean that someone has to relapse. I leave it to academia and researchers to tell us globally how do they rate relapse cases to those cases that already go back, that are already in a rehabilitation process. So I think academia, I leave it for academia to tell us, but even if you provide, yes, I know, by not giving someone what to do will affect that person, and there is likelihood of that person relapsing. But still, you may also provide employment, but still the person relapses. I leave it for academia in that area, but still coming back to helping them to get what to do is very critical. What we are doing as a National Rehabilitation Service, we are working with the districts. We've been mobilizing district leadership and the provincial leadership, plus different ministries, especially Ministry of Youth, Ministry of Labor, Ministry of Education, and we are working with them to ensure that graduates of rehab centers, we do everything possible to get them what to do. It is an effort that will require everyone to play, but still, there are still gaps that all of us have to work together to address. But regarding relapsing and not having what to do, I leave it for academia to tell us. But at NLS level, we see relapse cases around 20%. So every year, we see around 20% of people we have in our centers relapsing. We don't know whether it is normal or abnormal. I leave it for academia who have done a number of research to tell us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it's also a question that goes back to Emmanuel. I think I don't know, Emmanuel, if you're a researcher as well, that you want to respond to that, or if any of the speakers, it's open for anyone who wants to add for anything that's from that question about. Yes.
We have some colleagues here from Sierra Leone also, where we worked on child soldier reintegration. And you can make some parallels to children who've gone to rehabilitation centers and then returned to the community and the placement fails. And what we have seen the gap area being is work with the family. So education programs, jobs programs, health, that's all great. But if you don't work with the roots of the family dysfunction, as Vincent said, is oftentimes, and as DG Fred said, is leading to the issues that the children are having. You have to work with those families in preparing for the young person to come home, and then supporting them and everyone learning new skills in better management of their emotions, better problem solving, better rule setting, monitoring. You have to work with the family. And I wonder if DG Fred, in working with you on family-based rehabilitation supports, if we could reduce that relapse number from 20% to much less.
Thank you. I think there's someone who wanted to, was it, yes, Gasanganwa. Gasanganwa has been working as previously as a vice mayor, but also works at the University of Rwanda. So he has, over to you for quick intervention.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe what I'm now saying, it's not research, it's personal experience.
Yeah.
And suggestion of area of improvement. The government of Rwanda has done a lot in terms of reintegration for those kids. However, we have the shortfalls that we need to work to complete the rehabilitation process. I was not happy to see how I was working as someone who has been working in rehabilitation, and have been my work at undergraduate was about rehabilitation of patients. There is some steps that we do not have a lot of time to work on, as Dr. Betancourt was saying, like family tracing, family problems, diagnosis, and family support. Sometimes they are root cause of relapse. So imagine when someone is taken from maybe from street and goes to rehabilitation center for 1 year, and you have no time to know where is the family, how is the family functioning, how family problems are, and try to support the family throughout. When he comes back, he found the same problems, and even you support the individual, the family support is really needed to accompany, to support the fellow member to go through the process of rehabilitation. I think as academia, maybe we can support, but work closely with the NRIS and local governments to see how we can improve better to complete the rehabilitation process. They have a good package at Iwawa rehabilitation, at Nyamagabe rehabilitation, but arriving home, because there is no time to work with the family, to trace problem, maybe to support, to give like psychotherapy for some cases, we find out that relapse may happen. at any time. So it's what I was suggesting, collaboration to identify all those problems to complete rehabilitation and see what we can suggest the government improvement, or maybe to work with the districts, make awareness of needed process so that we can give the full package and enable the rehabilitation process to be complete. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for all your incredible responses. Oh, Dr. Vincent, yes, please.
Thank you very much. I know we are running out of time, but I want to insist on two things, which I found very important. And thank you, DG Fred, for raising this, and Gasangano. Collaboration between institutions. I read from the statement from DG Fred saying, I leave it to academia. In other words, it is an invitation. I take it as an invitation for more collaboration and partnership. It is like he's saying, you guys, we are doing what we do. Can you join and document and share with us what you are learning from other books and research, and engage in evidence-based practices and etc. This is how we take it. And it is very important that we talk about today from this specific case of us, those who are graduating from the rehabilitation centers back in the community and found to be relapsing cases. What does it mean for that family who was believing that their child or their youth will go and graduate and come back to normal? In other words, if the root cause is in the family, how are we working to change both sides, changing or behavior, social change, children and family? Also, how are we addressing the issue of stigma that is associated with that specific phenomenon, the addictive behaviors, and how is it is seen in the community? How often do we have those who believe like sending the youth in the rehabilitation center? It is seen as a punishment. And family members who have sent their children in the rehabilitation centers, maybe they don't know even the change that is happening in that center. And thanks to the NRS, because they regularly invite family members to come and visit their children in that rehabilitation process, so that the family members, they can come back home, convinced that their children are changing in behaviors, so that when they are back in the family, they know that their child has changed. But also, how do we tell the community that the one who is graduating back in the community is no longer the same as he or she used to be before the rehabilitation service? Another thing I want to emphasize on is the paradigm shift or the working model. When we have those who are in the rehabilitation service, engaging them in a number of activities, being carpentry, tailoring, the working model is like once they have learned and they are able to develop a project, then everything is okay. Yes, but we are also having those who are graduating from universities who are being dysfunctional, those who have been owning business, those who have been employed, becoming dysfunctional because of the addictive behaviors. So for those, you will not be teaching them how to read and write because they are already with the necessary knowledge, which will require more aspects to be considered and included in the current model to understand also how the addiction has affected the number of their capacity to function. Normalizing the behavior, I can share just in a second. I think relapsing in drug addiction, it is a normal behavior. I'm taking this from the experience I could learn from those who are working in Huye. Well, depending on the types of drugs or alcohol, it may take time to have the person really normalizing. Maybe 1 month, 2 months, years to come. They may be recidiving, but also they need to be supported regularly from the disintoxication perspective. The disintoxication for drug may take more time. So we should not be discouraged by seeing those cases, but as we said, to combine individual-centered and family-centered rehabilitation approach. Over to you.
Thank you so much to everyone for all your wonderful responses and incredible discussion. It's been really, really fruitful. Joseph, any sort of last minute business that you think we should cover before we close?
No, I think maybe if speakers tell Fred in one minute, anything that you would, not 1 minute, a second, about last minute to all the audience that have been training. I know, yeah.
Sure, I'll kick us off. I just want to thank everyone for this rich discussion. And I think you see today so many ways in which Rwanda is leading and innovating. And we need to get these ideas out there on the ground, because the things we've talked about today are transformative if we can truly do them at greater scale. Integrating evidence-based mental health promotion and treatments and family-based services into a range of other systems that are well scaled up within the country, including the educational systems, the social protection systems, the health systems, and other innovations like livelihoods and youth employment. I think we've talked today about, both for early childhood as well as young people who are involved in the juvenile rehabilitation programs, the need to focus on the individual, but also the family. And by bringing these two elements of the child's social ecology together in how we respond, we can strengthen and embolden those responses. And then I think the last theme that was so important was partnerships and collaborations, that these are big problems. No one can do them alone, but there are really fruitful opportunities for all of us to come together and collaborate and bring more evidence-based approaches and that lived experience and wisdom that the ministries and the leaders within the country have to truly be transformative, to not leave children and adolescents and vulnerable families out as the country continues to make great strides forward.
I think Teresa just summarized the whole webinar. Maxim, anything to add on that?
Very quickly, I truly think Dr. Teresa really summarized everything. Going back to reintegration, I would also add, again, using socio-ecological model, the role of the community, immediate community members beyond the immediate family. This is also important, also in the context of addressing stigma and discrimination towards these people, towards these behaviors, and so on. So just one more challenge on top of what we have been discussing. And the second thing I would just say that this type of exchange, really truly productive exchange, fantastic, and thanks again for providing UNICEF here today and share some of our experiences as well. I think it should become a regular thing, like a series of meetings or something. This is something that I would recommend. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Maxim. Deja Fred, so I'm running through it. Deja Fred.
Oh, thank you very much. I want to thank everyone who organized this session. I want to conclude by quoting Erik Erikson. He says that life does not make any sense without interdependence. We need each other, and the sooner we learn that, the better for all of us. So we need each other. We need to depend on one another. We need to collaborate. We need to support one another. There are areas that are still need more people, especially reintegration, but also prevention. Prevention is very critical. So researchers, I wish to call you to do more research for us that will inform us what to do better, especially on mental health of children in post-genocide situations, or even post-pandemic situation. Have had COVID, what does that mean? And are the approaches we use to rehabilitate the right approaches, or we need to change? So one size fits all approach, I think we need to be guided by the research. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Deji. Dr. Vincent, in a second.
Yes, in a second, I want to really thank the panelists and those who joined this conversation. Second, on behalf of the University of Rwanda and the Center for Mental Health in particular, we commit to keep playing this role, and we thank you for responding to the invitation. We want that next time we meet again and continue this conversation. Thank you to UNICEF. Thank you to Rwanda Rehabilitation Service. Thank you to colleagues from Boston, and you appreciate the partnership that is being established between our institutions. So that was my point. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Libby, for the co-facilitator. And we're going to try and have this recording maybe on our YouTube account, and you can access it there. Thank you. See you next time. Bye for now.